The film opens with a female assassin named Anise, who meets up with the former Treasury Director Ray King. He shows her a picture of a Mexican family and asks her to find the family. He spots some assassins lurking around him, so he runs to the bathroom and writes something on his arms. When the assassins beat him up, he escapes them somehow and heads out of the bar. An assassin is placed outside, who shoots Raymond to death. Raymond's most trusted Treasury agent, Medina, is called to identify his body. While identifying him, she finds a message on his arm, asking to find the accountant. The scenes spin to Christian Wolff's side, who is seen getting ready in his travel trailer. Wolff participates in a dating event where men and women interview one another to find their perfect match. Unlike other men, Wolff drives all the women away with his blunt judgments and opinions. Back on Medina's side, she visits Raymond's landlords, who show her the room he was renting. She finds a box full of clues and evidence related to the last case Raymond was working on. Among those clues, she finds a picture with Wolff's name mentioned on the back. Now she rents the place and decides to solve Raymond's last case. While Wolff eats his hyper-organized breakfast food for dinner, Medina calls the neuroscience center to get a hold of Wolff. The receptionist refuses to share any details, but Medina asks her to bring the handler whom Wolff heavily relies on, knowing that the handler must be eavesdropping on them. It turns out to be true. The handler hears everything and uses her advanced and illegal means to find Medina's location and personal data. The next morning, Raymond's killer visits his boss, Burke, who's laying low as a butcher at a fish store. Burke tells his henchman that he got Raymond killed through him because he found out about his human trafficking ring. Now Burke gives his assassin new targets to kill. He asks him to get rid of Anise, whom he remembers as a deadly woman who shot all of his friends in front of him. He doesn't disclose the context of Anise's shooting spree and asks his assassin to also shoot the man Raymond last met. Meanwhile, Wolff startles Medina by showing up in her building's garage. He also knows why she's looking for him, so she takes him to Raymond's house and shows him Raymond's investigation clues and evidence, which she's pasted back on the wall. She's unable to connect the dots because the evidence is disoriented. On the side plot, Burke's assassin shoots the Mexican family's elder, for he was the last to meet Raymond. After discussing some details, Medina goes to sleep on the couch. By the time she wakes up, Wolff has already pieced all the clues together with his ability to hyper-fixate on things. He now knows what he was up to. He was investigating a Salvadorian family. The wife, Edith, had come to America to make money, so she took on multiple low-level jobs. He also keeps explaining how he figured everything out. Edith's son is also trapped in a prison camp. They head straight to a catering company where Edith once worked. The owner takes them lightly and refuses to cooperate with them. When Edith's way doesn't work out, Wolff starts threatening him with all the tax frauds he's committed. The owner also gets provoked, so Wolff attacks him and takes him down, which Medina doesn't appreciate. Now in submission, the owner leads them to a human trafficker who kidnaps girls and supplies them around. When Wolff and Medina drive away, she calls him out for his unorthodox methods, but he clarifies that they work every time and that he will keep on relying on them. Scenes shift to Wolff's brother, Brax, whom Wolff promised to stay in touch with but never did. He checks into a hotel in Germany, where he nervously practices how to talk to his boss. When she calls him, he fails to talk to her with confidence and acts submissive. At night, he's seen eating ice cream beside a young girl who seems to be in a state of shock. That's when he gets a call from Wolff. When he finds out Wolff is only contacting him to seek his help, he angrily hangs up on him. Wolff keeps calling him without realizing Brax is mad at him for not keeping contact. But since Brax low-key misses his brother, he decides to meet him even if it's work-related. When he walks out of that house, we find out that he's assassinated everyone in the house except for the girl he was having ice cream with. Medina and Wolff await his arrival, during which she teaches Wolff to express trivial emotions and gestures to bond with Brax. When Wolff does that with Brax, he immediately clocks that he was asked to do it and that he didn't actually mean it. Wolff tells him that they have to lure in a human trafficker, who also pimps young women. They rent a motel room where they call 3 hookers who work for the man they're looking for. 2 of them get scared and leave, whereas one desperate hooker extorts them for more money in exchange for tricking her pimp into coming into their motel room. Outside, Medina talks to her friend from the surveillance, who is still unable to detect who shot Raymond in the open street. Elsewhere, the detectives discover Edith's father, who was shot to death. Medina's surveillance guy fills her in on Edith's husband's murder, revealing that his corpse was discovered in a ditch along with others who tried to escape the trafficking ring that had captured them. As a few hours pass, the hooker's pimp arrives at the motel room. Brax tries to invite him in, but soon loses patience and punches him so hard that he falls off the balcony and gets knocked out. They put him in Medina's trunk and decide to torture him until he gives them a lead. Wolff contacts his handler from the Science Center, who uses a British AI voice to communicate with them instead of speaking. She plays heavy and gives them the biggest lead by hacking all the street cameras in the area Raymond was shot. She spots Anise as she's the only one acting odd around the time of the murder. Although they fail to detect her face in the camera footage, they spot a woman taking a selfie in which Anise got captured in the background. She identifies that woman and finds her location. She further hacks her computer and discovers the photo in which Anise was in the background. The handler's system fails to identify Anise, as she lives off-grid and without an ID. Strangely, she finds Anise's presence at multiple murder sites. When the trio returns to Raymond's place, Brax takes a look at all the murdered people's pictures on the wall and indirectly admits to murdering some of them, as he's paid to kill targets. Medina flips out to know she's working with assassins and disassociates herself from them. She visits the pimp, who speaks to her in his lawyer's presence. He's gullible enough to admit that he often buys girls from traffickers. When Medina shows him Edith's picture, he recognizes her and reveals that she escaped before he could pimp her out. She was hospitalized after getting brutally injured. When Medina convinces him to out the man who traffics girls, he gets shot in the head by Burke's man because Burke knows the investigation leads back to him eventually. On the other hand, Wolff's handler updates him on a possible accident from the past that might have something to do with Edith. After that, Brax catches up with Wolff and expresses how frustrating it is for him to have a brother who's emotionally unavailable because of his autism. Wolff takes the initiative to hang out with him at a cowboy bar, where a woman approaches him in a flirty manner, but he blows the chance without realizing it. When Brax points out the obvious, he joins the girl in a dance performance and enjoys doing the moves. Unfortunately, her boyfriend arrives to pick a bone with Wolff. Before Wolff does something, Brax backs him up and kicks the boyfriend out of the bar. The brothers flee with a rush of adrenaline. On the other hand, Medina visits the hospital where Edith was brought after her brutal car crash and an ambush. He shows Medina some CCTV footage from 5 years ago and details how he reconstructed her face, which was ruined in the crash. He also did brain surgery on her, which completely changed her as a person. She became more intelligent and aggressive. As a result, she taught herself how to fight and beat up a guard before vanishing. According to the doctor, she only remembered a specific type of whistle. The handler's investigation leads her to the hospital, so she hacks all the computers and comes across Edith's footage. At night, Brax's employer, who is also a middleman, assigns Brax his new target, who turns out to be Medina. At night, he shares a bed with Wolff, who keeps staring at the roof, where he's pasted pictures regarding the investigation. He pretends to sleep and watches Brax leave. When he checks his phone, he finds out he's after Medina. He calls his handler and tells her to call the cops and alert Medina. Simultaneously, Anise is seen outside Medina's house. The handler tells Wolff that Raymond was killed because he had finally found Edith. Now, Anise breaks into Medina's house because the same client has hired Anise's employer to kill Medina as well. Medina gets a heads up from the handler, but still gets badly beaten up by Anise. After stabbing Medina, she comes across a photo of Edith and her family. Suddenly, old memories flood her mind, and she recalls how she and her group tried escaping the trafficker, who was none other than the Whistling Burke. Wolff arrives and lets Anise go. Who is Edith in actuality? Burke is told by Anise's employer that Medina wasn't killed because of an intervention. Burke becomes worried and orders to kill all the people held at the prison camp. Wolff decides to go after Edith's son, due to which he gets into a fight with Brax. The brothers make up eventually and head to the location together, which the handler finds for them. The brothers arm themselves with military-grade weaponry and face the bad guys head-on right before they murder the kids. They engage in a crossfire, during which Brax gets badly wounded in a bomb explosion. The guards escape with the kids, so the brothers go after them. They shoot the remaining guards and rescue the children. On the other hand, the handler contacts Edith and Brax's contractor. She has dirt on him, so she's able to manipulate him into removing the bounty on Medina. She also helps Edith by giving her Burke's location. She visits him personally and takes his life, now knowing who he is. Medina returns to work after her recovery and calls the handler, whose center is now providing shelter to all the kids Wolff rescued. The film ends here. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome recaps.